Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. And I'm going to start by sharing my screen. So I'm here to talk about the benefits of circular economy and waste-free economy and give you some lessons from the Nordics, hopefully. So I'll get started. So I think it's good to get the basics of what a circular economy is from the beginning. So I'm just going to give you super brief information. And I have to start talking about the economy we currently have on the planet, which is a linear economy. And that means that we are producing things very, very fast of fossil fuel energies that we can't have in the future because of climate change, as we just talked about. We're making them of fossil materials, plastics, and so on, not sustainable either. And we're making them to break fast, so we can make a lot of money to sell new things. So that's kind of the linear economy. And then when they break, we throw them away in garbage dumps in many parts of the world. Or as we do in the Nordics, we burn them, which is basically burning money, because everything, all materials has a great value if we just look at it in the right way. So this is the linear economy. But when we talk about the circular economy, it's something else. And if we continue to work in this linear economy that we currently have, we're going to drown in garbage, and we're going to also run out of materials, which is very important to have, as we talked about earlier in the presentations. The circular economy is something different. It's about keeping the value of the materials as long as possible, as high as possible, which makes the future waste or the current waste economy obsolete. We will not have waste in the future because waste is just precious resources in the wrong place. So we need to make sure that we design the whole economy differently. We go from this waste economy, we just throw things away, buy new things in an unsustainable way, which destroys the planet, not only with climate change, but pollution and so on. Right now in the world, we're kind of in the start of recycling economy. We've been doing that for a long time in the Nordics. We recycle plastics and glass and metal and paper and food and things, but it's still very, very small amount that really comes back into the economy again. But in a circular economy, it's a waste-free economy. We don't have waste at all. And we're really utilizing the materials in the best way possible and keeping the value as high as possible and make sure it kind of comes back into the economy again. So that's just a super easy way of explaining this. There's a more detailed way that I can explain this, but you can see any of my other presentations that we have for free. All right, so that's the circular economy in short. And I also want to say the importance of circular economy is that when we work and try to save the planet now from the climate crisis, we can only if we change the energy sector from fossil fuels and so on to renewables, we only get halfway, because we can only lower the carbon emissions with about 50% by shifting into new renewable energy sources. How we consume and produce things, that's 45 to 70% of the carbon emissions. You know, if we keep drilling oil out of the ground, keep making plastic, keep metals and minerals and making mines, making the components, melting metals, shipping it all over the planet. Everything we do creates carbon today. So we need to really make sure that we also consume and produce things much, much more sustainable in order to meet the climate targets globally. Super important. And there is an organization called Circular Economy, which is members of not only Credennet, the Swedish organization that I work for, which I will tell you a bit more about in a minute, but also Nordic Circular Hotspot, the other organization on a Nordic level that I run. But anyway, they do a fantastic report every year, which they look at all the materials on the planet and how much is actually circulated back into the economy, the value of the materials and resources. And what they found is that only and also they made 5 of these global reports and 10 national reports. So they have made many of these. I'll tell you more about this. But anyway, the circular economy, the recycling rate of all materials that we create on the planet, which is 100 billion tons a year, new materials. It's only 7.2% that's actually circulated back into the economy again, which means that we're losing more than 90% of the value which we could be using instead of making new ones over and over and over again and destroying the planet at the same time. So we really we need to make sure we shift these economies to a circular economy. Yes. And we have also made these gap reports, or they have, circular economy. Some of them have been done by circular economy, and some have been done from other organizations. Anyway, if you look at the Nordics, because I'm here to teach you about what's happening in the Nordics, we are actually worse than the global average. Norway, for instance, is only 2.4% circular, and Sweden, where I live, only 3.4 circular. And yeah, you know, the planet 7.2. And Iceland is a bit better than the other countries in the Nordics. There's not a gap report made for Denmark yet, but it's coming this year. So we'll see if they're better or worse than we are. And the reason for Norway and Sweden being so bad, but worse than the global average, is because we are super rich, just like you are. And we consume a lot of things. We have really big cars, we have multiple houses, we consume more clothes than anybody else on the planet. This is, by the way, secondhand, not new. So we are not living in a sustainable way in the Nordics at all. So we are not very good role models for the planet. We think, many people think so, because we've been talking about it's very important to be sustainable, but we are not sustainable ourselves. And you can really see this in this chart, because this is the Earth overshoot chart. And this is when countries on the planet start over-consuming the resources they have to use for that year. You know, the planet needs to replenish the resources, and they can do that in forestry or food because it grows back. But a lot of other things we can't grow back, and it takes a very long time for the planet to replenish again. And this map is showing the countries that are over-consuming the resources, and when on the year they are starting to live of the coming years' resources, so to speak. And some countries are not even on this map, which means that they are in line with and are living sustainable much more than we are. And if you are the worst countries in the world, then you are early on the year. So you can see here the biggest over-consuming countries. So it's Qatar, Luxembourg, but also the Nordic countries. We are some of the worst in the world. We need to make sure that we are working and living much more like Jamaica, Ecuador, and Indonesia, and the countries not even on this map. So we have a big work ahead of us to make sure we become sustainable. And circular economy is a very strong tool to do that. Yes, and what about Sweden then? We don't have waste or garbage dumps. We haven't had that for a long time, and we have been very, proud of how we handle garbage, because you can't see garbage on the street. We have very good recycling and garbage collectors. It's very clean if you go here. But what we don't really talk about is how we handle the waste we have. We actually import garbage from all over Europe, which we burn here in Sweden. We have 82 enormous waste incinerator plants, like this one on the picture, where we take enormous amount of garbage. We earn a lot of money, and we burn it here, and it creates enormous amount of carbon emissions, and also we destroyed the resources we should be very careful of. So even if in this Financial Times article is saying, well, this is so good, we don't have waste and we burn it, and it makes we run our taxis and buses and things of the energy, it's not sustainable at all, because in the circular economy we shouldn't have waste to burn in the first place. So we are burning money or resources we should have in the future. So this is not sustainable in the future. And also the European Union have decided in the Circular Economy Action Plan that we're going to, the whole European Union will be circular. So this is not a way forward for the European Union and especially Sweden. Okay, so now to some positive news. This is a quote from the bank HSBC. It's the CEO of HSBC Vietnam, who actually made a fantastic report showcasing the potential of circular economy in the future. And I'm going to read this quote from him. And he says, The circular economy can help us save energy and resources. It also brings economic benefits and quite substantial ones too. The move towards a more circular economy can contribute $4.5 trillion in additional economic output by 2030 and $25 trillion by 2050 as a result of resources being better utilized and more jobs being created in higher skilled industries away from resource extraction and waste disposal. So this is a fantastic future opportunity for everybody. Go into the circular economy because you will earn so much money and we will save resources and the planet as a nice side effect as well. All right, so I'm just going to tell you a bit about how I work and the organizations that I run. I thought it might be interesting for everybody to hear how we are doing this or tackling these changes and challenges. So CradleNet is one of the oldest circular economy organizations in the world. We started already in 2009, and that was before even the term circular economy existed. And we are a network. You can join as an organization or a company member or as a private person, but we're mostly focusing on shifting businesses and teaching them about circularity. So we are big and strong when it comes to communication and knowledge sharing. And also we try to influence policy, not only in Sweden, but also on a Nordic level or an international level. So this is the board you can see on the picture here. We also have a vision that we try to really make sure happen, and that we want to have Sweden to have circular economy in place in order to meet the climate target we have set, which is we're going to be net zero in Sweden by 2045. And that's impossible to do without circular economy, as I mentioned in the future, in the beginning, because we only get so far with shifting to renewable energy sources, even though it's happening very fast. Solar panels and wind power plants are being installed everywhere, and electric cars are super popular. But we can only go so far without shifting the way we consume and produce and waste. We should stop wasting and burning waste. We have today 132 companies and as members, but we have more than 100 people as private members as well. And it's everything from really, really big companies to small startups. And everybody wants to learn about circular economy. And the thing that we do that's been very popular is that we meet every single Friday and we tell them about the latest news that's happened in Sweden, in the Nordics, in the world. We tell them also, we invite speakers to tell them or give them a lecture about what's happening in circular economy. It could be the latest tools or new regulations or new projects or new products. And the members themselves can come and speak as well. And we record every single one. So we have this huge library of knowledge that we share with them. So we really teach them about everything. We also above that, do membership meetings, and that's where also the private members are included, and they're a bit more in depth and more workshop formats. So they also learn about circular economy and they can get to meet each other, because that's like one of the biggest values. We want them to start collaborating with each other, because you cannot be circular by yourself. You have to collaborate with others. We also do a lot of reports and projects to make sure when we see there's a gap in knowledge, we try to fill it so the companies know what they should be doing. And we just did this for the business model product as a service in the circular economy. We made this report, but we also developed methodology so people and companies can know if they want to try this business model out, how to do it, and what pitfalls not to fall into, so to speak, so they can do a successful transformation. We also do lectures. So if you want to hear me speak about circular economy more in depth than I'm doing today, we have open ones that is free and open. It doesn't cost anything. We do that every month, and sometimes they're in English. Mostly they're in Swedish, but sometimes they're in English. So you can just look at our website if you want to have a bigger knowledge of circular economy. We also do a lot of conferences and big events to make sure everybody knows what's going on, and yeah, try to get our members on stage as well to spread the news about what they're doing. We are also a lot in the media and talk about this to try to influence not only the business sector, but also policy, as I mentioned before. And we also have meetings with politicians, political parties, and we do manifests and really try to to make sure the Swedish politicians and the Nordic politicians know what they should be doing in order to shift Sweden to become circular. And I also started this other organization, the Nordic Circular Hotspot, which is doing kind of the same thing, but on a Nordic level. And this is our international channel where we collaborate much with other circular hotspots all over the world. And we have an organization, we have a big partnership program, we have a Nordic Circular Arena, which is a digital platform, which I will show you a bit about. And also we have a yearly conference, an annual conference that goes around between the Nordic countries. So last year we were hosting here in Sweden. This year it's in Reykjavik in Iceland. And we have managing partners from all over the Nordics in every single Nordic country working together to make sure the Nordic circular hotspots get developed and you know, take care of the partners and yeah, really develop the whole organization. We have also started something called transition groups. So we gather the partners interested in a specific topic to make sure they can kind of write white papers or roadmaps about what the Nordics should be doing in circular economy. And we have one of those transition groups when it comes to building and constructing circularity, the construction sector. We have one for finance, where a lot of banks and so are involved in. We have one for policy and regulations. We have one for leadership for the circular transition, and also one for reverse logistics, and more are coming as well. And we have the digital platform, the Nordic Circular Arena. And this is open and free for everybody to join. You can just register, go in. It's not only for the Nordics, but it's mostly focused on what's happening in the Nordics. If you want to know, you can read more than 200 circular economy reports. You can see what events we're doing. You can upload your own reports and events and things. So it's a collaborating platform. We also have an app for this. And we also develop a lot of events between these big conferences and things. So we just were at the World Circular Economy Forum, for instance. I had a Nordic stage, which we were showcasing a lot of good examples. And like I said, we had this big conference in Iceland in the fall. It's the 17th and 18th of October. So this is much how our organizations are working to shift into a circular economy in the Nordics. I just want to give you some really quick examples of companies that are already working circular, but I wanted to start off and saying, like, if you're gonna work circular, make sure you design things right in the beginning, not only products, but also your business models. You know, the whole companies should be designed, and the products and the services right from the beginning, because you save around 80% of the carbon emissions in the design phase. So design is super important. This is a Swedish company called Cake. They have made a motorcycle, or many motorcycles, with circular modularity. So they have designed this whole motorcycle by already recycled materials. And some things cannot be recycled, but then they try to make it into like bioplastics or something instead, that's as sustainable as it possibly can be. So they really made this whole motorcycle as durable as possible, with circular materials, also to be able to be repaired and upgraded and refurbished and so on in a great way. So it lasts forever. Really, really great. We have another company that's also a member of CradleNet, which is ReKitchen. And instead of them selling new kitchenware like IKEA does, they are instead taking kitchenware that somebody else already used, and they're making it into lovely packages. So if you have kids moving from home, instead of buying just new things, you buy recycled or secondhand things, but in a nice package. So reuse is a very big part and very important part of the circular economy. We shouldn't buy new things just because we can. There are beautiful things that already are out there in high quality that we can use again, and nobody will tell the difference. This is also an example of reuse in public buildings. This is an architectural firm called White Architects that got an assignment from the city of Gothenburg. And it's a public building, and they got this an assignment, and they had 12 million Swedish kronor to make the whole interior design. White Architects decided to make the interior design in secondhand materials and make the whole interior design recyclable and circular. And they actually went 70% under budget doing this. And yeah, so they saved the city of Gothenburg 9 million Swedish kronor, which is amazing. So you can also save a lot of money and still have really nice products. They actually won an award for this. So that's fantastic. Extending lifespan is also very important. Make sure things last for such a long time as possible, so we don't have to create new, because when we create new, it emits carbon, it pollutes, and so on. And also this saves money. So this is another Swedish member we have, One Pan. And you know, every time you buy a frying pan, they break after a while, it starts to get scratched, and you have to buy new ones. They are selling this high quality pan, already buy recyclable materials that can be refurbished after a while. So you can just hand it in to make sure that all the scratches are gone, and then you get it back. So instead of you buying a new one every time they break, you can keep your old one over and over again. So it lasts for a very long time. So extending lifespan, super important. This is Foxway, another member of CradleNet. They are an IT company. They are selling new phones and computers and things, and make sure they take them back not only one time or two times, but 3 times. And once you buy a new phone, they take it back from you. They take your old phone, to refurbish it to look new. They make sure everything is updated, and then they sell it again and again and again. So they are 3 times more circular than most of the recycling IT companies out there. And they are going so well. They have in 10 years become a 1 billion euro company. And they have a 20% annual growth, and they have more than 250,000 customers, and they're growing exponentially. So look at Foxway, they are amazing. Zero waste, this is what we'd be talking about before, but this is actually food retailers that have zero waste in their business model. So you can't buy packaging in these stores. You have to bring your own packaging. So instead of just you buying a thing with plastic packaging and throw it away or taking it to recycling, you bring your own packaging back and forth. So you don't have to have packaging at all. There's no waste created. Really great. And also you can just repurpose things. There's another business model of the circular economy. This is what IKEA does, and they try to make sure people, if you stop having a purpose for the thing you bought from IKEA, you can make other purposes for the things that wasn't planned from the beginning. So instead of having this as a bookshelf or something, you can make it into a greenhouse. Instead of having this as a shelf for porcelain, whatever, you can make it into a beehive, and those plastic bags you can make into flower pots, for instance, just to make some example. And redesign, I told you about this, very important, but also product as a service. This is Accus, also members of CradleNet. Instead of selling signs, which they do, they started to sell the service of a sign. So instead of you just buy a sign, they make sure you can access the service of a sign. It looks like you bought it, but they will take the sign back once you're done with it. So they are instead selling the service as a sign. So that's really great. And also they of course make the signs out of recycled materials and make sure they're energy efficient if it's an electric sign, and so on. So they keep the ownership of the signs instead of selling them. So this is a totally new business model, and hopefully it makes them even more money than just selling a thing once. They can sell them over and over again. Upcycling, another very important part of the circular economy. It's when you take a bad material, which in this case is those ghost nets that are just floating around in the oceans and killing dolphins and turtles and things and making microplastics. They take them out of the oceans and they can make nice furniture out of them. This is a company called Matter who has done this, and more and more upcycling products are coming as well. So you take a bad product or material and make it into a better one that lasts much longer and has a better use. Sharing economy, also very important. This is when instead of just you utilizing things like a car, for instance, you can share it with many. This is one of our members, Avayu, and they are sharing office spaces. So if you have an office space that's standing empty, nobody's using it, you can share it with others. So this is a way to optimize the use of things in the circular economy, sharing economy. And then the next last thing I'm going to share with you is the regenerative business models. And this is I know a lot of desert countries are doing right now. They try to make the desert bloom. And if you do it with the regenerative business systems and methodologies, you can actually do that. So it's better than going organic. It's where you actually replenish the earth. It sucks in more carbon. It creates dirt and earth again, and it's better for biodiversity. And it has so many potentials and possibilities, and it actually have a bigger yield as well. Organic, when you grow food, it has a smaller yield, but regenerative farming actually has a bigger one in the long term. And this is something that Unilever really looked into. So now they have developed regenerative agriculture principles. So if you're interested in this, please look at this. Okay, I'm coming to a close here now. So we're going to talk more about industrial symbiosis. This is one of our members as well, Crumbs. They are taking a waste product from one industry, which is a bakery industry, which is one of the most wasteful industries on the planet. A lot of bakeries that bake a lot of bread, and then they go stale after a day, and they have to throw them away. Crumbs beer actually take this old bread and make beer out of it, and then the waste product can become nutrients, which you can put back on the fields again to make new bread of, and then when the bread is old, make beer of. So they are kind of part of this industrial symbiosis, and they are making more money because before the bakeries were just throwing this away and it cost them money. Now they can actually get money for the old bread instead, which is really good. Yes, and I just wanted to end again with some quotes of the possibilities of circular economy, because there are so many new ways of recycling new things that we haven't before. And just the battery recycling market is supposed to generate $28 billion in by 2030. And the solar PV recycling market will grow to be worth 2.7 billion by 2030. So there's new fantastic possibilities in the circular economy as well. When it comes to recycling. And now we're recycling clothes, we're recycling new things every day. So innovation is a very important part of this too. So that was me. That was it for me. And I hope you learned something about the Nordics and how we are working here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was a very insightful, very detailed presentation. Loads of interesting things around innovation. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to have you here today.
Thank you.